What is Statista? It's actually very simple. It's a kind of huge library where you can find all market data for all countries. Market data could be what are running shoes, how large are running shoes, how large is the fintech sector in Sweden, etc., etc. We exist roughly 10 years now, and we are about 450 people, and our center is Hamburg, but we try to internationalize, and that is a little bit what I would like to talk about. As you can see here, we are used. We have about 6 million visitors per month coming to the platform, and it's mainly a B2B application. We developed it successfully in Germany, but for us, of course, the question was, how can we actually raise and grow? And as you can see, I had a past as a consultant, so to have 3 very simple questions to put in a complicated chart. So of course, if you want to grow, you have 3 possibilities. Number 1, you raise the average price. Number 2, you win further clients. And number 3 is actually you go internationally. And for us, we do all 3 of them, but the most interesting and the strongest lever is actually to go internationally. In Germany, we are profitable, and we finance basically out of Germany then the internationalization. And the question is how we can tackle the globalization. And that is, we try to prepare a couple of ideas which you might use. Now, there's 3 questions which you have if you want to go internationally for our kind of business. Number 1 is how you can build the content, because if you have the market size of the furniture industry in Germany, it doesn't interest anybody in Asia, etc., etc. Number 2, and more importantly, how can you build a brand? Just because you're somehow, some people know you in Germany doesn't mean, of course, no one knows you elsewhere. And number 3 is actually how you can build an international sales organization. So number 1, so the business model of Statista is fairly that we aggregate statistics from about 20,000 sources, Nielsen, GfK, etc. And we produce our own statistics. Now, in order to aggregate the statistic and find them, we need people, analysts. So what we built is, over the past, analysts for Europe and North America and have a pretty good coverage. Now we are moving them much more into the direction of Asia and South America. All these people, and that is actually for the moment a fantastic situation, love to come to Germany. That was new to us when we started. It was really difficult to find foreign analysts coming to Hamburg. Now it's relatively easy. But in addition to aggregate the statistics, because you have to build all the contracts with all your different sources, it is actually, for us, more and more attractive to build our own content bases. So really to build own models for different sectors where we feel that we have an understanding. It is a little bit copying what Netflix did. They aggregated first, and then they started with House of Cards, were extremely successful at it, and realized that the licensing is so much easier, and then did more and more. And of course, it helps you to sell as well the product. So what we do is, and that is if you look for data, anything around consumer products, how large, how many diapers are in a certain country, what do they pay for it, what's the market share, what is the car industry, how many SUVs are sold in Sweden, etc. All you can find here. Secondly, everything around digital markets. So we build basically our own content bases for these core markets. And so it's altogether, if you count it statistically, you come up with 38% for the moment. And oops, okay. More importantly, and that's actually really interesting, is how can you build a brand? And for something like statistics, it's actually extremely important to have a brand people trust somehow. Now, of course, we asked first at the moment, or that was actually last year, what is the brand recognition of Statista? As you can see, in Germany and Austria, that is okay. Of course, there's the giants, which are by far more recognized, such as Nielsen and GfK. GfK stronger in Europe, Nielsen stronger in the US. But as you can see, outside of Germany and Austria, and we just took the US and Canada, the recognition is still very, very small. And that is for us, basically, how can we, out of Germany, develop actually a brand? So what we do is, to a large extent, we work with media companies. For us, established media companies are basically the way that more and more people know us. So there's 3 ways how we do it, and I can just invite you actually to copy them because I believe they're relatively successful and efficient. Number 1, we produce infographics to a large scale with many, they're always exclusive, they have interesting content, of course they're on a daily basis, they're co-branded, and so we work almost with all relevant business publications around the world. Secondly, we produce quite a lot of rankings, and that is actually content which media brands as well love to publish. The ones we work the most with is with the Financial Times, which we have published this year and will publish now annually what are the fastest growing companies in Europe. To be honest, it's a cheap copy of an Inc. list from the US, but Inc. is nicely not constantly present here, and it's something which works because, of course, everyone looks for it, and again, you can push the brand. And the last point was, for me, the most surprising. We go more and more into PR content. I thought, before we started that any kind of PR content is gone. No one uses it anymore. But that is not true. So we published this year, beginning of this year, an idea we had, which we called Made in Country Index. And basically the idea is, what is the reputation of a certain country brand, made in Germany, made etc., in all the different countries? Very simple. Interestingly, no one has done it before. And we published it in 50 different countries because we had the brand for it. And interestingly, all the newspapers for a certain country love to write about why made in France is not as good as it should be, or what made in Germany is just fantastic. So yes, you can use PR content if it's in some way original in order to get publicized, which at least here worked. That was number 2, how to create the brand. And then the next question is how to actually build a sales organization. In particular, you don't want to do, at least we don't have too much cash, we grow out of our own cash flow, so you don't want to open everywhere just different sales offices. So what we do for the moment is we win the leads, obviously, out of registration. It's a typical freemium model. We use emailing. And then we build actually a sales force here in Germany addressing all the different countries. And only if a market is strong enough, then we open up an office in the different country. So for the moment, the US and France and London. Now, secondly, what helps, of course, once you have a customer here in Germany and they're multinational, then you just leave them, you leverage them into the different other countries. And as you can see, our customer base is relatively spread out. There are a couple of what we're really proud of. So for instance, not only FC Bayern Munich is our customer, but FC Barcelona. We have the church, both sides. We have all kinds of universities, etc., etc. Revenue-wise, that is what we did. So we are now at the run rate, sales-wise, at around 35 million euros, I believe. And we publish actually always a year ahead because that's create internal pressure, and that helps actually to push the organization a little bit. And now the question, of course, was, as I started, we try to globalize how much of this revenue comes out of Germany and how much comes actually from other countries. And this chart, of course, is totally biased because the axes are a little bit moved. But having said that, so we make, if you can see last quarter, we started in Germany nicely. It took actually a while. For the moment, we make in Germany about 35%, rest of Europe. The additional part, the US is in this, now becomes the strongest market. And you see slowly movement in the Asian market. And that's where we are. Thank you very much.